It's late at night. At the end of your long workday, you're stuck in an eerie restroom of a now empty office building all alone. You just couldn't hold it till you got home. When you're at your most vulnerable, you hear footsteps echoing on the tiled floor of the restroom, heading towards your stall. There shouldn't be anyone in there but you. Everyone has gone home. Then you see them. Two legs framed against the bottom opening of the stall door. The person doesn't make a sound. "Hello," you cry nervously. "Who's there?" Then someone pushes open your stall door. They stand before you with their arms reaching out and their mouth open and say, "Stand by for 3 tales of paranormal strangeness." This is Audio Stories with J.B. Simien, and this is Three Unexplained Paranormal Incidents. If you're hearing this story on YouTube, please subscribe to this channel and click the like symbol. If you're hearing the story on Audio Stories podcast, please rate it and like it in iTunes. Your effort will help more people discover these entertaining stories. Incident number 1. Miss Betty knows. Daily, my family helps our older neighbor, Miss Betty. We've known her and lived next door to her for decades, long before I was born. She was always very helpful. She used to babysit us kids when my mother had to work. I've eaten many meals and snacks at her house. She is like our second mother. These days, she lives alone. Her daughter Lacey lives in Texas. Miss Betty sometimes gets confused about things, but we watch out for her and we help her when she needs it. Her doctor added some new medications recently to delay her memory loss. I think that the medication has had some strange side effects. When she greeted me today, she said hello to my dad, then hello to me. My dad died in Afghanistan 10 years ago. I reminded her that my dad had died. She reminded me that she knew. She was at his memorial, but he's here now. He wants to talk. Then she began talking to my invisible father. She moved into the living room and continued her conversation while sitting on her couch, talking to the empty end. I just stood in the living room doorway, watching. I wanted to call her doctor or her daughter, but something told me to wait. She stopped talking to my invisible dad and turned her full attention to me. She said that my father had been watching over the family since he died. He planned to continue watching over all of us until we passed. She said he had something very important he wanted me to do. Hours later, based upon Mrs. Betty's instructions, I located my dad's internet password notebook inside his old duffel bag, the one they'd shipped him from Afghanistan, containing his clothes after he was killed. In the notebook, I found information for a stock brokerage account in his name. Online, I accessed his account. My father had purchased 200 shares of Google when it first went public at $100 a share. On the day that I checked his account, Google was trading at $1,250 per share. The account balance, just in Google shares alone, was $250,000. Incident number 2. People see things. For 4 years, my sister Karen has been raising her son Jim alone. The kid's father has never contributed to their family. She occasionally needs help, so when her Army Reserve unit was called up for a year-long service in Iraq in 2008, my nephew came to live with us. By us, I'm referring to my mother, Helen, his grandmother, and me, his Uncle Joe. We were very happy to have my nephew living with us. He slept in his mother's old bedroom. Every night before I went to bed at 11:30, I would just stand for a few minutes in the doorway of my nephew's room and watch him sleep. One night, about 8 months after his mother had departed for Iraq, I was approaching his bedroom door when I heard him talking to someone. Since there's only 3 of us in the house, I thought he was talking to my mother because I heard him say "Mommy." As I stepped into his darkened bedroom, I could see by the illumination from the hallway light that my sister was holding my nephew in her arms and standing by the window. Excited and surprised, I ran up and hugged them both. I asked her, how had she gotten here? I screamed for my mother to wake up and join us. My sister said cryptically then, "They must have let her go." Well, we all went into the living room to talk. We were so happy to have her back home. She wouldn't put my nephew down. She kept kissing him and telling him how much she loved him and how much she had missed him. She kept telling us all how much she loved us. We talked about growing up together in the house and the things she had missed over the last 8 months. She cried the whole time. At 1 a.m., there was a knock at our front door. I could see through the peephole that it was Colonel Cherie. She was the brigade commander of my sister's Army Reserve unit, and she was in full uniform. I knew something was wrong. When I opened the door, she greeted me and told me she had some very bad news. She asked, could she come in? We went into the living room where the rest of the family was waiting. As the colonel stepped into our living room, she spotted my sister. She seemed confused. She asked my sister, how had she gotten here? At that point, I thought my sister must have gone AWOL, absent without leave. However, I was wrong. The colonel had received a message that Karen was in a serious accident in Iraq. The vehicle that she had been traveling in had been blown up by a roadside bomb. The Army had evacuated her to Germany for treatment. She was in an induced coma in a hospital in Wiesbaden. Karen didn't remember any of that. She told Colonel Cherie that she didn't know how she'd gotten here. She said she'd gone to sleep and woken up at home. The colonel called to confirm that Karen was in Germany. The Army verified that she was in a coma in the hospital. My sister, the colonel, my mother, and I talked about this unusual situation for the remainder of the night. At the first rays of dawn, Karen said that she was feeling ill and needed to lay down. With my mother's help, she curled up beside her son on the bed in her old room. Colonel Cherie departed to write up the situation in a report. She had taken pictures of Karen on her cell phone camera and had Karen spit into some tissues for a DNA test. The colonel took me aside and said, "I don't know who that woman is. She seems to be your sister, but she can't be. Your sister's in Germany. If I thought that she was your sister, I would have the MPs, military police, detain her. You all be very careful." In a few hours, when my mother checked on my sister, only my nephew was in the room. My sister had vanished. In a week, the Army had flown my sister, still in a coma, to Fort Lewis to continue her recovery and to be closer to her family. She remained in a coma for weeks, and we visited her every day. At night, I would sometimes hear her playing with my nephew in her bedroom. I would open the door, and there she would be, a living ghost. Some weeks later, we were called by the hospital. My sister had awoken from the coma. When she could finally speak, she confirmed that she had somehow come home to us while she had been in the coma. She could remember everything. The colonel had a DNA test performed on the sample that she took within days of collecting it. The results of the DNA test confirmed that the woman in our house that night was my sister. They let the issue drop. Incident number 3, its own film. My stepson Greg is 5. He likes to imitate his mother Kim and me, Leo. Unfortunately, we apparently spend too much time engaged with our cell phones at home because he wanted his own cell phone too. Of course, he is too young. He doesn't need a cell phone. Still, I don't like disappointing him. So when I upgraded recently to a new phone, I gave him my old phone to use as a toy. He carried that phone everywhere. I would charge him for him at night when I charged mine. I showed him how to use the camera and how to send us copies of the pictures that he took through email using our home Wi-Fi network. He took pictures of everything that interested him. Kim and I would receive email from him throughout the day containing his pictures. Then I showed him how to use the camera to make short films. As with the pictures, he sent us emails of his short film throughout the day too. In one of the recent short films, my stepson interviewed his imaginary friend. The film starts with him introducing his friend. He says, "Today, I'm talking to Kevin on my show." Then he told Kevin to say hello. I heard a deep, manly voice say, "Hello, Kim. Hello, Leo." I knew that voice. It was Tommy, Greg's deceased father. That completes 3 Unexplained Paranormal Incidents. I'm J.B. Simien. I hope that you've enjoyed this story. Thank you very much for listening. There are more stories below for you to enjoy. Thank you again, and take care.